Present us, O Lord, in all of our doings with thy most gracious favor, and further us with thy continual help, that in all of our works begun, continued, and ended in thee, we may glorify thy holy name, and finally, by thy mercy, attain everlasting life. Amen. Introduction of guests. Recognize the Minister of Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In the West Gallery, to you and through you, I would like to introduce the President of the Agriculture Producers of Association of Saskatchewan, otherwise known as APAS, Mr. Bill Probelski. APAS is a province-wide producer organization that works to advocate on behalf of producers and strengthen the agriculture sector. Our government is grateful for the work of our producer organizations like APAS, and I look forward to meeting with Bill later today. I ask all members to please join me in welcoming Bill to his Legislative Assembly.
I recognize the member from Regina Mount Royal.
Thank you, Speaker. It's a pleasure to join with the Minister to welcome Bill Probelski to his Assembly, an incredibly fine producer in this province, and of course the President of the Agricultural Producers Association of Saskatchewan, an exceptional organization that represents producers across this province, and this world-class industry and representing world-class producers. I want to ask all members to join with me in providing thanks and in welcoming Bill to his Assembly.
I recognize the Minister of CIC.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. It's my pleasure today to rise and to introduce a great Saskatchewan company who we have greatly appreciated working with over many years. Access Communications are here today for their annual day in the legislature. We had a chance for a great discussion this morning, and I want to thank them for that. Not sure if all are able to be here right now, but I'm going to read through the list of folks who were involved today. From Access, Carmilla Haynes, CEO, Mark Rathwell, Tracy Muka, Wade Peterson, Martin Smith, Lorna Knudsen, Karen Smith, G. Cow, Trina Claremont, Brian Wright, and Gina McGinn. Welcome to your Legislative Assembly. And also joining them, I want to recognize the folks from GSD Consulting and our former Speaker, dear friend Dan Dutremont here, along with former Chief of Staff Jason Wall and Sheila Sterling. Welcome as well to your Legislative Assembly.
I recognize the member from Regina Mount Royal.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's a pleasure to join with the Minister to welcome the leadership with Access Communications to their Assembly here today. We really appreciated the meeting this morning. We look forward to the gathering later here today as well. We really appreciate you being here. More than that, we really value the community leadership and economic impact that you provide across Saskatchewan. Your role in connecting Saskatchewan through high-speed internet is critical. Connectivity, high-speed internet is no longer a luxury, it's a necessity. So it's exciting when we see Access connecting 34 small communities across this province. And we want to recognize as well how this is a co-op, an economic leader that punches well above their weight. 300 staff, but more exceeded by the number of volunteers, Mr. Speaker. And that's a reflection of the kind of organization that they lead, the community impact that they have. They do an incredible job as well of telling Saskatchewan's stories, whether it's our local stories of local communities or our sports teams, whether it's covering high school graduations across this province or covering local sports like my hometown Regina Pats. Access does an exceptional job. They also give back. They have their Access Children's Fund, and they raise dollars. Coming up, they'll have their Christmas dinner that supports the Salvation Army. They have their Show and Shine on Labor Day, which is the place to be on Labor Day, Mr. Speaker, and this year raised over $50,000 for the Regina Food Bank. Just an awesome show. So I want to welcome all these leaders to their Assembly. They've already, the leadership's all been introduced here already. We welcome all of them. We also welcome GSD Strategies, and just a special mention there to Dan D'Outremont, who served in this assembly for many years. I had the privilege of serving with him, well, most days a privilege, and he also sat in your chair, Mr. Speaker. He's a fellow hunter and a pretty good guy. It's a pleasure to welcome him to his assembly. On behalf of the official opposition, I ask all to join in a very warm welcome to Carmela Haynes, the leadership at Access and GSD Strategies, to their assembly.
I recognize the Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You know, really, what a great week. We got to watch the Rough Riders win the Grey Cup. We had a fantastic parade and a wonderful day here yesterday. And now today, Mr. Speaker, I get to introduce Ituna School Law 30 class here today. Give a wave, guys. They are joined by their teacher, Jared Schmidt, and their bus driver, Wesley Kansruk. You know, Mr. Speaker, I always try and engage the students before they come and ask them to send an email to their MLA asking them why they should be recognized on the floor of this assembly. And Mr. Speaker, there's one student there that needs to be recognized, Austin Kimmel, works at our local co-op, always pumps your gas, great smile. He always can help you find, you know, that 60 joiner link you're looking for too, Mr. Speaker. Just a wonderful kid. These young people, Mr. Speaker, are truly the future of the province, and I'm not lying when I say the future looks bright. So to you and through you, Mr. Speaker, please join me in welcoming Ituna School to this, their Legislative Assembly.
I recognize the member from Regina South Albert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. To you and through you to all members, I'd like to introduce to this Assembly a very special young man who's seated in the Speaker's gallery just behind me. That's Charles Schwint. Grade 6 student from Mary McVitie here in Regina, who came as part of a class group last spring and watched proceedings along with all of us here, and decided to undertake to come back to job shadow his MLA for the day, because he's deeply interested in politics and all things that happen in this building. In addition to being the oldest brother of 4 with 3 lively younger brothers, he's also a competitive dodgeball player in the Regina Youth Dodgeball League, and really passionate about his math class, even though he did get to miss a math test. To be here today, unfortunately, he did have to take it early. I'd like to also add my thanks to all of my colleagues on this side of the aisle, as well as the Minister of Education, who took a few minutes out of his day this morning to meet with Charles, who had a number of questions about classroom complexity and support for kids with autism to ensure that they don't have to leave their home schools and can stay with their friends. It was a really appreciated gesture, certainly on Charles's behalf, and my pleasure to thank the Minister for his time. So on behalf of all members, I'd like to ask that everybody welcome Charles to this, his Legislative Assembly.
Hear, hear. Recognize the member from Humboldt-Watrous.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. To you and through you, I would like to introduce students from HCI and their principal and teacher, Mr. Millette. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but I myself am an alumni of HCI, and I'm so thrilled to see them all here today. So welcome to your Legislative Assembly.
Recognize the member from Regina South Albert.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I was so flustered with the last introduction, I neglected to note another young man joining us in the Assembly here today. Seated in the West Gallery behind me is the one and only Daryl Rommel, the face, the voice, nay, the spirit behind CTV's morning show, another parent deep in the trenches of early childhood. Proud dad to 2 wee ones, Mateo and Aria. Great hockey player, says the member from Regina Mount Royal. And, you know, a good sports fan, although with some questionable team choices. Just great community leader here in Regina, Mr. Speaker. So I'd like to ask that all members join me in welcoming Daryl here on his annual pilgrimage to the Saskatchewan Legislative Assembly.
Recognize the member from
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Up in your gallery, I would like to introduce to you a grade 11 student from Loreburn High School, Vincent Yakimoski. He is part of the Career Work Exchange program, and so he gets to spend this whole semester working alongside myself, the Minister of Finance, and the MLA from Kindersley-Biggar. He gets to shadow us, gets to hang out at some different meetings, and just have a great opportunity to see what happens in public service and serving his community. And he's a great leader. He's off to provincial volleyball finals next weekend. He's a multi-sport athlete, played football in the area as well, and just an all-around great guy that loves his politics and loves giving back to his community. So please welcome to his Legislative Assembly, Mr. Vincent Yakimoski.
I just wanted to mention too that though we have a past speaker in the chamber, in the speaker's gallery, sitting beside him is the person who makes us successful. And so Sheila Sterling, nice to see you back in the building, and appreciated all the years of service that you did in the speaker's office. How many? I can't ask that question. I can't ask you. She knows I'd be breaking the rules, and if she didn't know that, the guy beside her, several years, several speakers. Yeah. So the speaker just broke the rules there, signing from the balcony. But welcome here, you two. And just wanted to mention that I think the Regina South Albert MLA failed to mention that Charles got a little time in the Speaker's office too, and one of the things that he commented on was advice for the Speaker would be that we get a little more decorum in the chamber. So I thought, well, I like that. I like that guy. He's coming back every year to check up on us, but we got lots of students here today, so we can expect some good decorum today. So with that, we'll move on to some petitions. Presenting petitions, I recognize the member from Saskatoon Eastfield.
We'll get it right today, Mr. Speaker. I'm honored to stand and present a petition to the Legislative Assembly to call for the implementation of rent control now. Those that sign the petition today would like us all to know that rent in Saskatchewan has increased in a way that has far outpaced wage growth, putting more and more pressure on families, on seniors, on students, and on low-income individuals. They'd like to remind us that with rent control, residents can budget more effectively, potentially putting them in a position to save for a down payment and maybe become first-time homeowners. We should also know that provinces such as British Columbia, Manitoba, Ontario, and Prince Edward Island have already implemented rent control measures to protect tenants and maintain housing affordability. I'll read the prayer, Mr. Speaker. We in the prayer that reads as follows respectfully request that the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan call on the Government of Saskatchewan to adopt fair and effective rent control legislation that limits annual rent increases, ensures housing stability, and protects tenants from being priced out of their homes. Those who signed the petition today are from right here in Regina. I do so submit.
Sure. I recognize the member from Saskatoon University, Sutherland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to present a petition calling for the government to save our swales. The undersigned resident of the province of Saskatchewan wishes to bring to your attention the following. The Ministry of Highways is planning a 4-lane high-speed highway around part of Saskatoon and through the swales. The provincial government is neglecting its environmental protection duties to adequately protect wild species, habitats, and ecosystems of local, regional, national, and global significance. This includes failing to develop legislation according to the principles agreed to in the National Accord for Protection of Endangered Species. With that, Speaker, I will read the prayer as follows. Respectfully request that the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan call on the provincial government to update the Wildlife Act and expand the list of wild species protected by the provincial regulation, recognize the swales as important ecological habitat and designate them as protected areas, and ensure adequate long-term funding for research, management, and enforcement to protect the swales for generations to come. The petition has been signed by the residents of Saskatoon. I do so present.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I value the opportunity to present my second petition on this topic and rise today to present our petition calling for the repeal of Bill 137. The underside residents would like to bring to our attention the following. Queer and trans youth are at higher risk of homelessness, self-harm, and suicide when denied access to safe and inclusive learning environments. The Bill 137 is in direct contravention of the Saskatchewan Human Rights Code and the Charter of Rights and Freedoms as it relates to gender identity and expression. That Saskatchewan's advocate for children and youth has denounced this policy, indicating that it would cause harm. That Bill 137 was developed without public consultation from communities of educators, parents, students, or experts, and that Bill 137 is in direct contravention of evidence-based practices for supporting 2S LGBTQI+ youth. We in the prayer that read as follows respectfully request that the Legislative Assembly of Saskatchewan call on the Government of Saskatchewan to immediately repeal Bill 137 and ensure that all 2S LGBTQI+ students are supported and protected in accordance with the Saskatchewan Human Rights Code. Mr. Speaker, this petition has been signed by citizens from Prince Albert and Saskatoon. I do so present.
Reading and receiving petitions. Statements by members. I recognize the member from Dakota Arm River.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. 20 years ago, Daisy Richardson and her colleagues from Hillcrest Church in Moose Jaw had a dream to start a food drive that involved the entire community. That spark of inspiration gave birth to the Better Together Food Drive. The Better Together Food Drive is a collection of community groups and sponsors that head out each year on Halloween night and use it as an opportunity to serve the Moose Jaw District Food Bank. 2 weeks ago was their 20th year of doing such activities, and they had a record turnout of 630 volunteers who covered the entire city of Moose Jaw in 2 hours, going to every single door to gather food. They collected 46,000 pounds and over $6,000 in donations this Halloween. Mr. Speaker, in the last 20 years, that small spark of an idea has now collectively gathered 895,000 pounds of food for the Moose Jaw Food Bank since 2005. I want to say a quick thank you to some of the key folks who make that event happen each year. Daisy Richardson, Karen McNaughton, Starlee Hermanson, Andrew Thornton, and Royce Lewis. Thank you to all 630 volunteers who made this event possible. Thank you to the churches and community groups and the sponsors, because together you are making a difference, and that is why it is the Better Together Food Drive. Thank you to all involved.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon University Sutherland.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The month of November was designated as Hindu Heritage Month in 2022 by the Government of Canada. It was established to celebrate and honor the rich and diverse contributions of the Hindu community to the country and the world. Hindu Heritage Month serves as a reflection on the values of peace, nonviolence, respect for nature, and unity that are core to Hindu teachings. Hindu Heritage Month was established to recognize the profound influence of Hindu culture, traditions, and philosophy. It's an opportunity to raise awareness about the history, arts, customs, and practice of Hinduism, which is one of the world's oldest living religions. Canada is a proud home to more than 800,000 Canadians of Hindu heritage. And no matter where they are in this country, the positive impact of their community can be seen in all aspects of our society. From politics to art, business to medicine, and everything in between, Canadians of Hindu heritage are at the forefront of continued growth and development. The Hindu population in Saskatchewan is approximately 15,000 people, representing 1.3% of the total provincial population. On the behalf of our leader and the entire Saskatchewan NDP caucus, I wish you a happy Hindu Heritage Month.
I recognize the member from Williamson North.
Mr. Speaker, what constitutes a sports dynasty? I looked up a definition, and it's a team that dominates their sport and/or league for an extended length of time. Now consider these stats, Mr. Speaker. In nine-man football, they were undefeated this season, winning the high school championship by a score of 36-0 over the Humboldt Mohawks. 7 provincial titles since 2009, with only 1 loss in the last 3 seasons. I believe that describes a dynasty, and I'm talking about the Lumsden Devils, Mr. Speaker. Head coach Luke Dunville took over in 2005, and he has established a football culture that has grown and thrived at Lumsden High. Truly, a juggernaut has emerged. Congratulations to Coach Dunville and assistants Brady, Jason, Ian, Brian, and Lorne. Also, a shout out to retired teacher turned mayor of Lumsden, who I believe has taught half of the residents of Lumsden. Thanks for all your help with spring and fall camp, field care, and maintenance. Now, Mr. Speaker, I did mention 1 loss in the last 3 seasons. That 1 loss was the 24 semifinals game against your beloved Melfort Comets. I have it on good authority that playing on that team was an exceptional running back, Mr. David Gowdy. I'm sure that David ate his fair share of groceries at your family table. Football and friendly community rivalries, that's what keeps us all coming back for more. Congrats to the Lumsden Devils.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Riversdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today I would like to thank Supreme Steel for hosting several of my colleagues on Steel Day on October 9th. We were able to tour their Saskatoon-based plant and learn how steel is designed and fabricated. We saw the latest technology in operation and gained insights from local steel industry workers and experts. Supreme Steel is a family-based company that started out with a single welding truck, and today is responsible for large Canadian projects like the Diavik diamond mines in the Northwest Territories and the Port Mann Bridge in Vancouver. Supreme also contributes to Saskatchewan infrastructure and economy with recent projects like the CN Borden Bridge enhancement and the Esterhazy K3 expansion. With economic uncertainty and hardship around steel tariffs, companies like Supreme Steel have increasingly prioritized Canadian projects and contracts. The Saskatchewan government should follow the example of local industry leaders and purchase more locally produced steel, protect our steelworkers' jobs, and get the Saskatchewan taxpayer the best value for their dollars. Public procurement that benefits Saskatchewan people is crucial for our economic future, and we would like to acknowledge the work of the local steel industry in making this possible. I'd also like to thank Supreme for allowing me to attempt to climb a steel beam, even though I didn't make it very far. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Cypress Hills.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As a record-setting 2025 pro bull riding Canadian season concluded on Saturday in Edmonton, Jared Parsonage from Maple Creek put his name in the history books, and he continued to ride red hot right from the start of the weekend, going perfect 2 rides, 2-on-2. 1 step closer to the #1 ranking in the race for the season's Canadian Championship. He became the first cowboy to ever win both PBR and the Canadian Professional Rodeo Association Bull Riding Championship Canadian titles in the same season, winning both of the richest seasons in the PBR and Canadians' history. Moments after winning the honors, the 32-year-old thrill seeker announced his retirement from the sport of pro bull riding. Jared climbed the mountain to get to where he was today and planted the flag, tipped his hat, and rode off into the horizon at all 8 seconds at a time. I would like to take this time to congratulate Parsonage on the greatest win and wish him well and the best of his retirement. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Regina Pasqua.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to speak about the Summer Bash team who plan a wonderful event across Regina each summer. The first Summer Bash Festival was held in Fairchild Park in Harbour Landing in 2017. It was founded by Adam Heck, a current Regina Public School Board trustee, as a way to bring the community together and celebrate summer. Since then, the Summer Bash has grown to host 20 to 30 movies nights in parks across the city each year, and the annual summer market, an event that a resident of Harbour Landing and Albert Park always look forward to. This year, the summer market was held at the South Leisure Center and Realtor Park on August 9th and 10th, featuring over 100 local vendors and small business. I want to thank my team of volunteers as well as my colleagues for spending time at our booth connecting with constituents from Regina, Pascua and across the city. I ask that all members of the Legislative Assembly join me in congratulating Corey Montgomery and Jamie Whitaker, who managed the summer market this year, as well as Adam Heck and the entire Summer Bash team for their successful event this summer. Thank you.
I recognize the member from White City Capel.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. On Monday, September 29th, I, along with the Minister of Rural and Remote Health, attended the grand opening of the Eagle's Nest Primary Healthcare Clinic at the All Nations Healing Hospital in Fort Capel. This clinic is an important milestone, represents our shared commitment to improving access to quality health care, which offers an integrated, holistic model of First Nation and Western primary health care services, supporting the well-being of the catchment area and beyond. The Eagle's Nest will provide a health services model that uses both traditional and contemporary approaches. This state-of-the-art facility is the first of its kind in the province. Mr. Speaker, we had a great tour of the new facility and some great discussions with many of the dignitaries and staff who were present for this incredible celebration. Dr. Cosman is the primary physician for All Nations Healing Hospital and Eagle's Nest, where they began seeing patients on October 6th, reducing the burden on the emergency department. Congratulations to File Hills Capel Tribal Council, All Nations Healing Hospital, and Gail Bohm and all the staff for reaching this incredible milestone. The Eagle's Nest will serve as a beacon of hope and healing in our constituency, providing health support to so many people in our community. I'd ask all members to join me in congratulating everyone involved in making the Eagle's Nest a reality. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Question period. I recognize the member from Regina Mount Royal.
Hear, hear.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday during question period, the Finance Minister said that their key policy for solving high rental rates is, and I quote, to continue to encourage a business-friendly environment to encourage investment. Mr. Speaker, they're doing a pretty awful job on both fronts. My questions to the Premier are this. In that case, why has Saskatchewan had negative economic growth in 5 of the last 10 years? Why has Saskatchewan had the second lowest rate of economic growth among all the Canadian provinces since this Premier's come to office? And as a result, why are Saskatchewan people struggling more than anywhere else to pay their bills and being stuck with higher costs and more taxes by that government?
Hear, hear. I recognize the Finance Minister.
Mr. Speaker, there are 4 or 5 questions in there. I don't know if I get 4 or 5 times the time allotment or not, but I'll do my best. Mr. Speaker, the member opposite led off. He was talking about housing starts, Mr. Speaker, and about rent control. That's one area, one of many areas that the members opposite and this side, the government of Saskatchewan, differ on, Mr. Speaker. We don't believe in rent control. Virtually every jurisdiction that's been tried, Mr. Speaker, it doesn't work. The opposite happens. It dries up investment, Mr. Speaker, and less housing starts happen. And I mentioned this yesterday. I'll do it again today, Mr. Speaker. Perfect example in Saskatchewan. Year to date, Mr. Speaker, housing starts are up over 50%. In NDP Manitoba that has rent control, they're down 4%. Mr. Speaker, if you go year over year, it's even more dramatic. 71% increase, Mr. Speaker, in Saskatchewan, and a decline of 21%, Mr. Speaker. Clearly, rent control does not work.
Hear, hear.
I recognize the member from Regina Mount Royal.
Well, it's clear that tax and squander Sask Party government won't take accountability for their very awful economic record, Mr. Speaker. We haven't even been at the Canadian average under the Premier's watch for provinces across this country. Our average economic growth rate has been less than 1%. Our standard of living, as measured by real GDP per capita, is less today than it was in 2018, and job growth has been the second lowest, the second worst in Canada. Will this Premier at least acknowledge this record of economic failure, a record that is spelled out in the facts from Statistics Canada and lived out in the realities and costs that Saskatchewan families face.
Hear, hear. Recognize the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, the member opposite continuously cherry picks stats. He picks month over month when it works or whatever works for him, Mr. Speaker. But the fact of the matter is, for a long time now, in most economic indicators in the country, Mr. Speaker, this province has been at or near the top. Mr. Speaker, he talks about jobs in this country, Mr. Speaker. Not a secret, news release November 7th, Statistics Canada's latest labour force numbers. Mr. Speaker, in Saskatchewan, labour market remains strong with 14,000 jobs added year over year, an increase of 2.3%. That's Stats Can, Mr. Speaker, not the government of Saskatchewan. The second highest amongst provinces. Saskatchewan's unemployment rate is the second lowest amongst provinces at 5.5%, which is well below the national average of 6.9%. Those are the facts, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Regina Mount Royal.
You know, it's clear why we might be in this mess and this record under this government. Talk about cherry picking, Mr. Speaker. We're talking about GDP and jobs, Mr. Speaker. Those are pretty important economic measures, Mr. Speaker. And the GDP to the finance minister, well, that captures all the economic activity, Mr. Speaker. You know, send it as a memo over to that finance minister. But they haven't taken any accountability for that failing record. And they've spent that 18 years as well not taking the issue of illegal foreign farm land ownership seriously. Now, the Agricultural Producers Association of Saskatchewan and their president have raised serious concerns and called for action. And of course, we've heard from producers and rural leaders for years on this front. That government has ignored those calls. That Sask Party government won't even commit to closing the mile-wide loopholes that continue to exist or investigate and audit foreign farmland ownership. Why won't they listen to producers, and why won't they commit, as producers are calling for them to step up and crack down on illegal foreign farmland ownership?
Mr. Speaker, I just want to correct the record, because while the Ag Minister has ably answered that question many times in this House, Mr. Speaker, the member opposite started on GDP. So I'm going to answer a GDP question, Mr. Speaker. Let's set the facts straight, Mr. Speaker. On a per capita basis, GDP...
Boy, I always stand up at the wrong time. Member from Regina Mount Royal. I'd just really like to ask if we would all listen to the questions and listen to the answers. It's just kind of common courtesy. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, on GDP, Saskatchewan on a per capita basis has the second highest GDP in the country, behind only Alberta, Mr. Speaker. And as far as the farmland ownership, as the Agriculture Minister has mentioned many times, Mr. Speaker, clearly we're very concerned about this. It is the intention of this government to make sure that only Canadian citizens own farmland in this province, Mr. Speaker. If anyone in this province, including the member opposite, has any evidence that needs to be investigated, Mr. Speaker, we want to hear that. We want them to bring that forward. It's very important to this government that those laws are followed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Regina Wall Shakers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In my hand, I hold a work standard issued by the Saskatchewan Health Authority on October 29th that proves that this Sask Party government's dangerous emergency room policy is real. Yikes. The minister has claimed for a week that the policy doesn't exist. A work of fiction, NDP spin, anything he can do to deny this government's failures in rural health care. So I've got the memo right here, Mr. Speaker, and I've got two questions for the minister. One, has he read it? And two, does he want me to walk him through it?
I recognize the Minister of Health.
Thank
you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I will repeat for the member opposite, for his sake, that the facility designation regulations have been in place since 2011, Mr. Speaker. I've been really disappointed, actually, Mr. Speaker, with the way the members opposite have characterized this question over the last week or two, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, they have constantly said there's one nurse in a facility, Mr. Speaker. The facility designation regulations and SHA policy clearly states there needs to be 2 nursing staff, Mr. Speaker. One must be a registered nurse, but the other one could be an LPN. The other one might even be a paramedic, Mr. Speaker. Right. Mr. Speaker, I think every member in this House and every resident of this province can be very confident in the quality of care being provided by our healthcare providers in rural Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. They are highly trained professionals, Mr. Speaker. Right. I would trust my family with them, and I hope everybody else would too. Thank you.
I'm just going to remind the member not to be using props or anything in his questions, so I recognize the member from Regina Wall Shakers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It's clear that the minister hasn't read that, because it makes it clear in the policy that it takes only, to keep an emergency room open, it takes only 1 registered nurse to care for patients, to run lab tests, to consult physicians on site, and so much more. Frontline workers have made it clear that this is intended to give the illusion of health care, not to actually deliver it. The policy the minister still takes issue with is laid out in black and white. It's dangerous, and someone is going to get killed. It's time, Mr. Speaker, to tear this new...
Next question. I recognize the member from Regina Wall Shakers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Now, the minister claims that this policy has been in place for 14 years. His own officials wrote a new work standard and sent it out on October 29th, 3 weeks ago today. His own official said the new work standard is standardizing emergency room practices across the province after amalgamating the health regions. Now, the health regions, Mr. Speaker, amalgamated 7 years ago. And in that time, we have seen an 800% increase in hospital closures. It's clear that this minister has left rural emergency rooms to fare for themselves over 7 years. What have they been doing for 7 years?
You know what, Mr. Speaker, I think as elected officials, we all have a duty to bring elevated language as much as possible to the public debate, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I've been very disappointed with some of the characterization, Mr. Speaker, of our healthcare providers over the last couple of weeks in this debate, Mr. Speaker. As I said in my previous answer, I believe that everyone in this House and every resident of Saskatchewan can trust the highly trained healthcare providers that we have delivering care across rural Saskatchewan, whether they be an RN or an LPN or any other profession, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the member opposite wants to talk about what has been going on the last 7 years, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we have the country's most ambitious health human resources action plan, Mr. Speaker, adding 2,500 healthcare providers.
You know, they're laughing at the same time every time when something's been stated. Please show respect one to another. Minister of Health.
Here, here. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I stated, there have been 2,500 healthcare providers hired over the last several years, Mr. Speaker, in 50+ different rural and remote and northern communities across, Mr. Speaker. We've added the point-of-care testing, Mr. Speaker, the virtual physician program, which has avoided over 3,500 potential service disruptions, Mr. Speaker. The members opposite have voted against that a couple times, more than a couple times, several times, actually, Mr. Speaker. That's what this government's going to continue working on. That's what we've been up to.
Here, here.
I recognize the member from Regina Wascana Plains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, earlier this summer it came to light that this government has been placing vulnerable people in the Coachman Hotel, a hotel where people complained of bed bugs, filthy conditions, and drugs sold in the hall. Now we know that the government knew more than a year in advance how bad things were. A senior level director wrote in an email, and I quote, "Not sure that this hotel should be on our list if this is the conditions of the hotel, and it sounds like it is known in Regina to be not a great hotel. Why did the minister ignore the warning signs and continue to put vulnerable people in these filthy conditions?"
I recognize the Minister of Social Services.
you, Mr. Speaker. In Regina, Mr. Speaker, there's very few hotel providers that are willing to accept certain income assistance clients. To meet the needs of the clients who are in crisis, Mr. Speaker, the ministry has on occasion used the coachman, Mr. Speaker. Due to the complex needs and challenges that some clients are facing, the ministry, like I said, we have limited options on where to place some clients. They may no longer be accepted at certain emergency shelters or hotels due to past behaviors or issues, Mr. Speaker. We appreciate the work of our frontline ministry staff, Mr. Speaker, when it comes to protecting vulnerable people who are in crisis, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to do everything we can to ensure they're kept safe. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Regina, Wascana Plains.
Mr. Speaker, this is disgusting. I'm willing to bet the Premier and the Minister wouldn't spend 1 minute inside that hotel. The emails show that the SAS Party knew this was a problem. They kept putting people there anyway. This was a Band-Aid solution. That's what the Saskatchewan people can expect after 18 years of the SAS Party. These emails came from their officials. Why did this government ignore the advice from their own officials and put vulnerable people into a motel with bugs, drugs, and God knows what else?
I recognize the Minister of Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Like I said, the Ministry of Social Services works with different hotel providers to provide critical assistance to families, children, and individuals who are in need of immediate help in emergencies or in terms of longer-term support. Mr. Speaker, we balance the cost-effectiveness, the safety, and availability when securing hotel rooms, Mr. Speaker. We have blocked room contracts in both the cities of Saskatoon and Regina. In Regina, we have 8 rooms blocked. And if those rooms are full, Mr. Speaker, we go through a 3-quote process if those blocked rooms are full, Mr. Speaker, depending on the availability in Regina at that time. You know, we rely on our frontline staff to make that judgment call, Mr. Speaker. Hotels remain an important part of the ministry's service continuum, Mr. Speaker. The ministry's actions are clear, we're transparent, and we're centered on those we serve who are quite often in crisis, Mr. Speaker.
I recognize the member from Regina, Wascana Plains.
Mr. Speaker, when vulnerable people are faced with an emergency situation, they should have a safe place to go. But that's not what's happening after 18 years of the SAS Party. My question is this, Mr. Speaker, to the Minister. If it was his daughter, his niece, or his family member who was in a desperate emergency with nowhere to go, would he put them up in the Coachman Motel?
We have to be careful how these are government questions, I think but I'll ask the Minister, in general, to answer the question. I recognize the Minister of Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I'll repeat it again, Mr. Speaker. In Regina, we have very few hotel providers who are willing to take some income assistance clients, Mr. Speaker. On occasion, when we absolutely have to, as a last resort, use the coachman in, Mr. Speaker. This is an issue that we take very seriously, and we rely on the professionalism and the work that our frontline service providers do. Under no circumstances, Mr. Speaker, are we going to let an individual have to stay outside or find things on their own. We're going to do everything we can to protect that individual and put a roof over their head, Mr. Speaker. And further to that, at no time are we going to ask our frontline ministry staff to pull over on the side of the road, log into hotels.com and look for a promo code.
I recognize a member from Regina, South Alberta.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Winter is coming, and we learned yesterday that the SAS Party government has decided to hike the recycling fee on new tires by 30%. Now, the Minister of Environment, he either didn't realize that he himself had signed off on hiking the SAS Party's tax on tires, or he's been misinformed. Any increase to that fee requires his sign-off. So, will the minister tell this House today, did he sign off on the 30% increase to the SAS Party's tire tax, yes or no?
I recognize the Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let's really clear the record on this, Mr. Speaker. Good. $1.50 a tire fee. This is a fee, not a tax, a fee that goes toward the recycling of tires in the province of Saskatchewan. 100% of the fee goes toward the Tire Stewardship of Saskatchewan. $1.50 a tire, it went up, Mr. Speaker. Tire Stewardship of Saskatchewan recommended the fee increase. I support the Tire Stewardship of Saskatchewan board, Mr. Speaker. They are in charge of all decisions. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here. Well said. I recognize the member from Regina, South Alberta.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What a refreshing change the minister has put down his 3-year-old talking points, because that minister, by his own accord, has
I'd ask you to withdraw the 3-year-old talking points. Oh. I apologize. Could we pause the clock just for a moment? There's 3-year-old talking points and there's 3-year-old talking points. I think she meant the 3-year-old talking point. I am sorry. Continue and start the clock.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Well, we heard it from that minister's own mouth. He himself did sign off on the 30% fee increase to the purchase of new tires. But let's be clear, all of those dollars are not staying in Saskatchewan. Those dollars are flowing out of province to a California-based company after this government pulled the contract from Surecom. So I'm not sure what's going on over there, Mr. Speaker, but it's quite disturbing. Saskatchewan drivers will be out more than $7 million this year at a time when people in Saskatchewan have the worst financial anxiety anywhere in Canada. Whoever greenlit this tax aside, will the minister today pump the brakes on his tired old Sask Party tire tax?
I recognize the Minister of Environment.
Mr. Speaker, the way the member opposite asks questions, I am very proud of this government and make sure that the NDP do not ever have control over the public purse, Mr. Speaker.
Right on.
It is not a tax, it is a fee. It is a $1.50 fee, Mr. Speaker, brought forward by the Tire Stewardship of Saskatchewan to make sure, the goal of TSS was to make sure that tires do not end up in municipal landfills at the request of municipalities from all across Saskatchewan, Mr. Speaker. Tire Stewardship of Saskatchewan sets the fees. They recommended the fee increase of $1.50 a tire, Mr. Speaker, and I support the board of the Tire Stewardship of Saskatchewan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Here, here. I recognize the member from Athabasca.
Mr. Speaker, 4 times in 2 weeks, my colleague and the member from Saskatoon Centre has stood in this House and asked a simple question of the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions. Right. The Minister still has not answered, so I will give it a try today, Mr. Speaker. To the Minister, as of today, how many people in Saskatchewan are on the wait list for addictions treatment?
I recognize the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, helping people overcome their addiction and supporting recovery to save lives, heal families, and strengthen communities is truly a priority of this government, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, that's why our government is actually forming a central intake system within the province of Saskatchewan. We have tripled the funding that we've put into mental health and addictions. With our mental health and addictions action plan and that central intake system, it will help access the critical addiction treatment spaces across Saskatchewan, spaces which I've talked about previously. Our goal is adding 500. We're already just about 300 of those 500, Mr. Speaker, and we will continue to increase space so people don't have to wait, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Here, here. I recognize the member from Athabasca.
Speaker, the Minister is committed to opening spaces, but she is not committed to answering any questions in this Assembly. For 2 weeks, we have been asking this question, and for 2 weeks she has dodged this question. People are dying every day in this province, Mr. Speaker, especially in the north. This is urgent, and this is a crisis. Again, I will ask the Minister, how long are the current wait lists for mental health and addictions treatment in this province?
I recognize the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Mr. Speaker, of course, the wait lists and times across the province vary depending on the situations, Mr. Speaker. But, you know, as we talk about mental health and addictions, it's about recovery. And recovery is a journey, not a destination, Mr. Speaker. And these individuals are all in different stages of that journey, Mr. Speaker. But this government is here to help support those individuals in their recovery journey. So that's why we're moving to a recovery-oriented system of care. I spoke about it a little bit yesterday with the pre-treatment spaces, the treatment spaces, and I think almost most importantly are those post-treatment spaces, so that when individuals get out of treatment, they have those wraparound supports around them, a place where they can integrate back into their community of their choosing and really become a member of that community, get back with their families, Mr. Speaker, and have strong families. Thank you.
I recognize the member from Athabasca.
Speaker, the journey is actually waiting for the answer. I might be willing to take the minister, give the minister the benefit of a doubt, and she didn't have the information on the first day that we had asked. But we had asked for days and days and still won't tell us how long people are waiting. And like I said, we're going through a crisis here, Mr. Speaker. After 18 years in his government, this is what the people of Saskatchewan are left with. And the minister still won't answer the basic question, how long wait lists are here on her watch. They deserve better, we deserve better, Mr. Speaker. Why won't she tell the people of Saskatchewan today how long the waits are for addictions treatment?
I recognize the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the wait times vary depending on what type of treatment you are looking for, Mr. Speaker. This government will continue to work towards recovery and adding spaces to our system. I already talked about those spaces that we are opening, getting to 500, Mr. Speaker. Once those 500 spaces are open, we'll evaluate the places that we have, and we'll see what else needs to be put in place at that point in time, Mr. Speaker. But what this government won't be doing is it won't be closing spaces. Right. 18 years ago, when that government had the opportunity to serve, they closed an entire addiction treatment center in my community of Estevan. That is a fact, Mr. Speaker. We are not closing spaces, we are opening them.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Southeast.
Here. Mr. Speaker, I have a simple yes or no question for the Premier. Are any current or former members of the government caucus currently being investigated by the RCMP?
Question.
We will be moving on to ministerial statements. That question would be out of order. Ministerial statements. I recognize the Minister of Remote Rural Health.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
What was the point of order?
Mr. Speaker, during question period, right after you told the member from Regina Walsh Acres not to use a prop, the member from Regina Northeast shouted to the Minister of Health, "You can't be trusted." You have ruled on this many times in this House, Mr. Speaker, on many occasions. I would ask that the member withdraw and apologize.
Recognize the opposition House Leader.
There was a lot going on during question period. I'll admit that I didn't hear anything like that. I'd ask that you review the record and make a determination at that time.
Well, I could certainly do that, but I'd also ask, at times, here we are in a building, if someone said something, we can certainly show how we can apologize. If it hasn't been said, we can, as you've asked, review the record, if that's what we'd like to do. Okay, we'll review the record and I'll address it tomorrow. Ministerial statements. I recognize the Minister of Social Services.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to rise today to share the announcement that I made earlier today regarding our government's expansion of the provincial approach to homelessness, also known as PATH. Hear, hear. Mr. Speaker, the government of Saskatchewan is investing up to an additional $20 million over 3 years to expand programs and enhanced support services for individuals experiencing homelessness. This additional investment, Mr. Speaker, will build on programs and services that are already in place to provide multi-year funding for community-led responses to homelessness, expand emergency shelter capacity, and support transitions to supportive housing. Mr. Speaker, PATH has provided a foundation to collaborate and seek new solutions to the complex issue of homelessness with all levels of government and Indigenous and community partners. Mr. Speaker, it was ongoing discussions with our partners that led to the areas being chosen for this additional investment, and to focus on supporting services and initiatives that are demonstrating progress and having a positive impact. The additional funding of up to $20 million over 3 years will expand homelessness services by providing predictable, multi-year funding to municipalities to provide community-led priorities and strategies. It will create up to 40 new emergency shelter spaces at existing shelters based on demonstrated need. And it will create up to 60 new supportive housing spaces and add more trusteeship services to support individuals to transition to supportive housing. Mr. Speaker, our government has invested more than $98 million in homelessness services since the foundational PATH investment was announced in 2023. We look forward to continuing to partner with service providers, our municipal and federal counterparts, and with Indigenous and community organizations to help those in need achieve a better quality of life. Mr. Speaker, as we advance this work with our partners, our government remains firmly committed to ensuring that Saskatchewan people are safe and secure. We are engaging closely with our partners to finalize the programs and services that will be expanded across the province. By strengthening supports and expanding services through PATH, we are helping people in need build stability, opportunity, and a better quality of life. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Hear, hear. Hear, hear. I recognize the member from Regina, Wascana Plains.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the Minister opposite for sharing his remarks with us ahead of time. I certainly welcome the announcement, but considering the breadth of homelessness we see in the province, which has doubled and in some cases has tripled in the province, this announcement certainly seems inadequate to address this problem. Measures such as rent control and a direct payment to landlords and utilities would certainly go a long way to addressing the crisis we see in this province. Again, I welcome the announcement, but realize, considering the scale of homelessness we see today, there is so much more that we can be doing. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Introduction of bills.
Item number 1, Minister Harrison Canfield.
I recognize the Minister of Agriculture.
Mr. Speaker, I move that Bill number 40, the Animal Protection Amendment Act 2025, be now introduced and read a first time.
It's been moved by the Minister of Agriculture that Bill number 40, the Animal Protection Amendment Act 2025, be now introduced and read a first time. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
First reading of this bill.
When shall this bill be read a second time?
Next sitting of the Assembly.
Next sitting. Presenting reports by standing and special committees. Orders of the day.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 1, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 24, the Saskatchewan Internal Trade Promotion Act. MLA Singer.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm pleased to be on my feet to bring remarks on Bill number 24, the Saskatchewan Internal Trade Promotion Act. The Minister of Trade and Export Development checks some important boxes here, but the Premier and other ministries could learn a thing or two from not only this bill, but our superior bill proposed by the member from Saskatoon Riversdale. We applaud that the bill also encourages common sense mechanisms that interprovincially should be agreed upon, but question why American liquor is still on our shelves, as it is not in Manitoba, Ontario, British Columbia, and other jurisdictions. here in Saskatchewan. One of the members on the other side yesterday was talking about Black Fox Distillery and how great their whiskey is. Not sure if they were actually consuming it, I shouldn't say that. But that being said, $60 million a year is being spent by Saskatchewan residents on whiskey. Why are we allowing some of that revenue to go down to Tennessee, to Jack Daniels? We also question if there's American companies like Aspira Connect. Was their agreement with Provincial Parks renewed? We're still waiting to hear about that. It is paramount, though, that labour standards be honoured and upheld for all of the hard-working folks earning a living across Saskatchewan, which is something that the member from Saskatoon-Riversdale has proposed in her bill. That all being said, we're still looking over the summary of the bill. There will be other people providing remarks, and I move to adjourn debate on Bill number 24.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 2, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 29, the Tailgating Act. MLA Singer.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon-Riversdale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. What an opportunity to speak to this bill after yesterday's championship celebration parade that ended here at the legislature. I know we all enjoyed having the Saskatchewan Roughriders stop by with the Grey Cup. It's a shame the Premier couldn't make it, but of course Carla Beck was here, and we had a lot of fun. We're supportive of this act in theory. As we saw yesterday, the Saskatchewan Roughriders bring together community. And by allowing this Tailgating Act is another way to foster that sense of community within Saskatchewan. Our main concern is about this government's priorities. While this is a great thing to improve community, there's a lot of people suffering right now in the province. We have an affordability crisis, a housing crisis, and we need to ensure that the government's priorities are focused on the right things. So with our support for this act, we also encourage the government to address the very pressing issues facing families in Saskatchewan today. With that, I move to adjourn debate on Bill number 29.
Member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion?
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 3, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 30, the Interjurisdictional Supports Orders Amendment Act 2025. MLA Grayle.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Silver Spring.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to speak to this Interjurisdictional Support Orders Amendment Act, Bill number 30. I think it's an important amendment to consider. It's an amendment that seeks to expand the provisions under the International Recovery of Child Support to complement the Hague 2007 Convention, where 56 other signatory countries are now participating. It does provide, I guess, a greater net, if you want to call it that, of support or options for people looking to get support orders enforced. This amendment, I think, touches a lot of people in this province, and it certainly touches me at a personal level. I think we all can think of people in our lives, past or present, who have had unfortunate circumstances in their family dynamic change. I think personally of a good friend of our family who has suddenly found herself to be a single mom, trying to raise 2 children under trying circumstances. She's working 2 jobs and working harder than ever, just trying to keep a roof over her head and provide for her children, and struggles quite a bit in order to get the support orders from her former husband to acknowledge it and to keep up making those payments so that her children can continue to have a roof over their head and food in their stomach, and for all the other things that young children need. So supporting that endeavor, I think we would all agree, is noble, it's important. Providing more tools to people like that is essential. This amendment also seeks to ensure that kids or applicants aren't legally required to attend hearings, that communications can be conducted through electronic means and not just by the phone. I think that's also noteworthy and important to consider, that it's an important recognition on the realities of the 21st century, where we do so much communication electronically, and also that ensuring that children are not legally required to attend these hearings is also important. I think it's considerate and sensitive to the needs of them as well. I think in general, I'm open to supporting this bill. A number of my colleagues are open supporting this bill. I'll be interested to hear what our shadow minister in this regard has to say or has said about it in consideration. But I would just like to end in saying that I think it's important to note too, the importance of making sure that these kinds of support orders are obeyed and enforced, particularly in a province where we know that 40% of all people in this province that unfortunately are forced to rely on food banks are children. So I can't think of a more important group of people that require our support than them. They and their single moms or single parents have been hammered by the cost of living, of inflation, the cost of housing, the cost of rent, the cost of gas, the cost of groceries. And so anything that we can do in this chamber to make their lives better, I think we could all support that. With that, Mr. Speaker, I will move to adjourn debate on Bill number 30.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 4, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 31, the Defamation Act. MLA Greywall.
I recognize the member from Riversdale.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. This act seeks to tighten laws for legal action against defamatory publications. An important part of this act is modernizing for the current age with the rise of the internet, and we see a lot of harassment and misinformation on the internet. And defamation on the internet is so common nowadays, but it is very difficult to combat. So we're certainly interested in how effective this bill can be on that front, and ideally this will help to curb misinformation. A concern we have about this bill is, much like the old Libel and Slander Act, malicious, the definition of malicious intent is very vague. And as a lawyer, that's great for us. It makes us a lot of money debating the actual meaning of a word as defined in the Act, but it's not great for certainty, and it's not great for people to know the limits of what's permissible and not permissible. And that's both for the people accused, but also the people on the receiving end of what could be defamation. So it's important that we have clear lines when it comes to these types of things. We'll be interested to learn more about how this legislation aligns with what other provinces have. And with that, I move to adjourn debate on Bill 31.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 5, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 32, the Defamation Consequential Amendment Act 2025. MLA Greywall.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Riversdale.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Most of my comments on this bill are the same as applicable to Bill 31, so I reiterate those comments and move to adjourn debate on Bill number 32.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 6, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 33, the Credit Union Amendment Act. MLA Singer.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. It brings me pleasure to give remarks on Bill number 33, the Credit Union Amendment Act 2025. As a teacher, we often start with a motivational set to get people's attention. I think it's actually more appropriate for me to start with the boring part first, so hopefully people stay with me. The bill discusses updated mechanisms for credit unions and members to remove members with defined notice, allow for appeals, methods and process for moving funds ethically, member withdrawal procedures, approval procedures, as well as transparency guidelines. Everyone on our side certainly values the great work and dedication of credit unions and their employees and their institutions over generations in this province. They're enormously important to the Saskatchewan economic landscape. I have so many friends and families who bank and borrow with credit unions, including my wife and her family. Due to my aunt being a Royal Bank employee in Alsace, Saskatchewan, my family, for the most part, has done our banking with the Royal Bank. However, upon the closure of that bank in Alsace in the early 90s, nothing else opened up. It sort of makes me think of one of my favorite movies that my wife hates because she says it's boring. It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart and as George Bailey. Now, the Bailey Brothers Building and Loan is not technically a credit union, but it shares a lot of similarities in that it has a membership. It's sort of run as a cooperative. They provide a service that might not exist unless people were to band together. And I think that that's really been the benefit across our province. Things like Bailey Brothers Building and Loan can certainly be applicable to the situations of small town Saskatchewan. We have a credit union in Kindersley. There's credit unions all over rural Saskatchewan, and they really support a lot of different organizations, whether it's athletics or cultural organizations. Communities can really dry up without the support and institution being present in some of these communities. So on our side, we certainly support what's indicated here in Bill number 33, and I just wanted to add my 2 cents. I will move to adjourn debate on Bill number 33.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 7, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 34, the Cyber Stalking and Coercive Control Act. MLA McBain.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Silver Spring.
Thank you again, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I rise again here today to speak to Bill number 34, the Cyber Stalking Coercive Control Act, amendment to the Victims of Interpersonal Violence Act. This act seeks to add other types of interpersonal violence, such as patterns of coercive controlling behavior, cyber stalking, and online harassment to the definition of what domestic violence is, and that is in particular with respect to acquiring emergency intervention orders, getting a judge or a justice of the peace to grant such orders. I can honestly say in a number of years that I was a frontline police officer, general duty in small town Saskatchewan, First Nations communities, the level of domestic violence was notable. A good chunk of the work that our frontline officers, men and women, do, unfortunately involves domestic violence of all kinds. Unfortunately, by the time the police get involved, things have deteriorated to the point where violence has occurred. And they are actually one of the most dangerous situations any police officer or anyone in law enforcement could be called to attend. So adding these two elements, and also I do have some experience in these emergency intervention orders, and I also understand, and I'm quite compassionate to the victims of interpersonal violence who have sought to get these orders. Of course, there's issuing the orders can be done fairly regularly, fairly easily at times. Enforcement of those orders can be quite problematic. And I've had phone calls from victims of domestic violence who've gotten these orders and have complained, rightfully so, that it hasn't stopped the offender from, or the respondent, I guess in this case, from harassing them. With that said, though, I think that's still a noble endeavor to add more to the definition of what interpersonal violence is, so we can widen the scope in fighting domestic violence in this province. I think it also needs to be maybe mentioned as well, though, that just adding to the definition of what the victim of interpersonal violence is in this Act through this amendment doesn't negate the need for a bona fide interpersonal violence strategy in this province. Certainly doesn't negate the need for more supports for women and their children who far too often find themselves in a difficult position, whether they're able to remain in the domicile they've shared with the respondent or if they have to find a new place. Giving more supports to these vulnerable people in terms of temporary shelter or counseling or even financial support so that they can safely remove themselves from these abusive relationships also needs to be part of the plan. So I guess in saying that, I would mention that just because you put an amendment on a piece of paper doesn't automatically mean that we're going to see an improvement in this regard or that we could suddenly expect the highest rate of interpersonal violence, which is here in Saskatchewan, to diminish overnight. It's going to take a heck of a lot more than that, than a simple amendment to this Act. That said, I'm generally in favor of this, as I think a number of my colleagues are. I'll be interested to hear further debate from my colleagues, and of course, from anyone on the other side. With that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would move to adjourn debate on Bill number 34.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 8, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 35, the Mineral Resources Amendment Act 2025, MLA Pratchler.
Recognize the member from Saskatoon Riversdale.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It's a pleasure to speak to this bill. We're supportive of this bill in theory. I remember when I first started as in-house counsel at a global mining company that happens to be creating a potash mine here in Saskatchewan. We were finalizing the mineral rights holders unitization agreement, so what the rights holders would get for their rights as the company would be mining the area. And one thing I asked is, well, the people who don't sign on or the people you can't find, what happens? And I was kind of shocked to hear that, well, we just mark off that parcel and go around and never to return. So it seems quite wasteful. So I'm glad that there's a process that can get these rights or get these minerals mined, create value for Saskatchewan and Saskatchewan people through royalties, but also seeks to balance the rights of these mineral rights holders. And it's important that as this bill moves forward, that the government continues to do the proper stakeholder engagement and consultation, including with First Nations. And so this is something that, like I said, we're supportive of this bill in theory, and we hope it'll improve mining in this province. And with that, I move to adjourn debate on Bill 35.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 9, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 36, the Change of Name Amendment Act 2025, MLA Young, Regina South Albert.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Silver Spring.
Thank you again, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Once again, a pleasure to be on my feet to speak to Bill number 36, the Change of Name Amendment Act 2025. There are a number of provisions in this that I think are noteworthy. I think one of the interesting ones is, changing the amending the act in order to allow people to lengthen their name if they have a multi-component last name. I think that's an essential recognition of, the changing of our population, a more diverse population we have. We have folks coming from all over the world to Saskatchewan now, rightfully so. These are folks that are coming from multi-ethnic and cultural and religious backgrounds, and I think having a provision in the law, because I think, times change and we've become a more diverse province. We need to recognize that, and I'm glad to see that in this piece of legislation. I think that's something on this side we would all support. I think we would also generally agree on the provisions that would touch on getting a spouse's consent first in order to change their last name. I think that's important, as well as if you're changing your own name, you don't need their support or consent, sorry. And I think that just speaks to ensuring that individuals have control over that important aspect of their life. I am somewhat interested in the changes proposed to notify the police or other organizations with respect to name changes. I think in some respects, being former law enforcement, I've seen some CRs which are criminal records, Mr. Deputy Speaker, pretty much, from here to the ceiling. And I think for sure there are bona fide reasons for the legal authorities, the law enforcement authorities of the province to know when a person has legally changed their name, particularly when they might be on warrant, or they might have a serious criminal record, or they might be on conditions of release, or they might be on probation, or they might have a firearms prohibition, or there might be an emergency intervention order, or what have you. And so I think there are some positive aspects to that approach with this legislation that could be very helpful. I would, though, however, like to see if there's going to be any regulations with respect to this change, what those regulations would entail. Would there be some policy? Would there be some guidelines, for example, so that those in charge of notifying authorities, that there's some standard to apply, and it's not willy-nilly. There are a number of individuals that may have had an absolute discharge, for example, or they've been pardoned. And is that a situation then that the law enforcement authorities will be instantly notified when a name is changed? So there are some positive aspects to this, and there are also some other ones that I would be very interested to see come our way. And of course, our shadow minister will also be conducting consultations with stakeholders, and I will be looking forward to hearing the input that they acquire from those stakeholders. With that, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I would move to adjourn Bill number 36.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 10, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 37, the Vital Statistics Amendment Act 2025, MLA Young, Regina South Albert.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Riversdale.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker, and I'd like to echo the comments made by my colleague on the Change of Name Amendment Act. I think a lot of those comments apply to Bill number 37, the Vital Statistics Amendment Act 2025. In particular, the benefit to modernizing these regulations in keeping with our more diverse province. We have so many people from so many different cultural backgrounds that make this a great place to live, and it's important that we be inclusive with our legislation. Also good to see are the protections for vulnerable people, although we still have some of the highest rates of intimate partner violence in Canada. So that definitely needs to be addressed, but this bill does work towards creating more safety for people with the amendments therein. And with that, I move to adjourn debate on Bill number 37.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 11, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 38, the Building Schools Faster Act. MLA Young, Regina South Albert.
I recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I wish to make remarks on Bill number 38. I'll sort of complement what the member from Regina South Albert has said in some situations, but as a former teacher of 17 years, I certainly have no shortage of thoughts on this. If someone were to look at my page, you would sort of struggle to understand how you would articulate all of this in a short period of time, so I'll try and be as brief as possible. The Act encourages timely land acquisition, timelines and supports for municipalities, which is good. But our municipal government in Saskatoon certainly in other areas feels like they require more resources, whether it's for housing, whether it's for crime and safety, the root causes of crime. So take it with a grain of salt that you know, these pressures that might be put on municipalities also need to be accompanied by supports from our provincial government. I'll also say that you know, it's great to see that we have some proposed schools. South Corman Park School, I believe that's in Dakota Arm River. Great to see that there's a new school going up there. Sweetgrass First Nation in Cutknife. Regina, bursting at the seams in Harbour Landing and the towns. There's no set timeline for the towns, by the way, and we need to start, you know, working with municipal governments, also looking at how do we get these things moving faster. And Minister Hindley has made some suggestions, and that's great. But just because the government puts an act with good ideas and supports on paper doesn't necessarily mean that the government will put those words into actions. So I take it with a grain of salt. Fool me once, shame on me. I'll also say that in Saskatoon Stonebridge, we were desperate for a school in the mid-2010s, and by the time the school opened, there was a real lack of space immediately requiring portables. Why we can't support these school divisions with the resources when we know the rate the populations are growing. Let's give the school divisions the resources they need so that on day one, they can have a school that isn't over capacity. I'll also say at the SSBA the other day, it was great sitting at a table with folks from Northwest School Division in and around Meadow Lake, and they pointed out that some of their schools require some great refurbishments to bring them up to par. Some of their schools were built in 1940, so a lot of work that needs to be done in rural areas and in urban areas across the province. So this bill and amendment in a moment when I discuss Bill number 39, they work to, you know, make sure that we have these schools in place, these new schools, but it doesn't do enough, in our opinion, to talk about the refurbishments that need to be made. So with all of that being said, we encourage the words of the minister in this act, but we are looking forward to seeing actions. I move to adjourn debate on Bill 38.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried.
Government orders, adjourn debate. Item number 12, resume debate on the second reading motion for Bill number 39, the Building Schools Faster Consequential Amendment Act 2025, MLA Young, Regina South Albert.
Recognize the member from Saskatoon Stonebridge.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I will bring a few very brief remarks on Bill number 39, echoing the remarks of the member from Regina South Albert. She's very wise, and her words are super applicable. The Bill 39 amendment is basically moving portions of the Education Act under the legislation of the Building Schools Faster Act. So we certainly encourage that we don't, we be careful about what adjustments are made to the Education Act, but in this situation, our official opposition caucus is supportive of these necessary amendments that are made in Bill number 39. Therefore, I move to adjourn debate on Bill number 39.
The member has moved to adjourn debate. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried. I recognize the Deputy Government House Leader.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I move that this Assembly do now adjourn.
It has been moved that this Assembly do now adjourn. Is it the pleasure of the Assembly to adopt the motion? Carried. This Assembly now stands adjourned until tomorrow at 10 a.m. Thank you.